The crash in the red sky. The red sky was burning. Flames tore across the clouds as a starship came crashing down, spinning wildly. Pieces of metal flew off in every direction. The ship was no longer flying. It was falling like a stone from the sky. Inside, alarm screamed. Ethan, a human engineer, held tightly to the straps of his seat. Smoke filled the small cockpit. Sparks flew from the control panel. "System failure. Brace for impact," a robotic voice shouted. Next to him, strapped into another seat, was someone not human. She had pale blue skin, silver hair, and sharp eyes that glowed softly in the dark. Her name was Lyra. She was an alien warrior, and she did not like humans. Thry. Ship hit the ground hard. A deafening sound echoed through the alien forest as the ship crashed into the trees, ripping them apart. A wave of dust and fire exploded in all directions. Then, silence. Ethan woke up slowly. His head hurt. Blood ran down his forehead. He blinked. "Still alive?" he mumbled. The wreckage of the ship was all around him. The roof had been torn open. Smoke rose into the blood-red sky. Broken trees lay everywhere. He looked to his side. Lyra was unconscious, still in her seat. Her head was leaning forward, and her silver hair was covered in dust. "Hey, wake up," Ethan called. She didn't move. He reached out, touched her shoulder, and she suddenly gasped, eyes opening fast. Her hand shot forward, grabbing his wrist with surprising strength. "Don't touch me," she growled. Ethan pulled back, raising his hands. "Whoa, calm down, you were out cold." Lyra looked around, breathing hard. "We crashed?" "Yeah. Big time," Ethan said, standing up slowly. Lyra unstrapped herself and stood too. Her body was slim but strong, built for speed and combat. She moved like a trained warrior. Her skin had bruises, but she didn't seem to care. She walked to the open edge of the broken ship and stared at the jungle. "This is not my planet," she said coldly. "Where are we?" Ethan shook his head. "I don't know. Navigation systems are gone. This place wasn't on the map." The jungle was thick and strange. Trees had glowing fruit. Vines moved slowly, like they were alive. The wind made a haunting sound as it passed through the leaves. Something howled in the distance. Then another sound, low growling, deep and close. Ethan's eyes narrowed. "We need to move. This ship is a magnet. Whatever lives here probably saw us fall." Lyra frowned. "I don't need help from a human." Ethan gave a tired laugh. "Great. Then you go that way, I'll go this way. Let's see who survives longer." She stared at him for a moment, then turned away, ignoring the comment. But she didn't leave. They found a small clearing not far from the wreck. Ethan carried a small survival bag. Lyra carried nothing. Just a broken blade she'd found in the debris. It was getting dark. The sky turned from red to black fast. The wind grew cold. "We need shelter," Ethan said. Lyra nodded. "This planet is dangerous. I feel it in the air. The night is worse." Ethan looked around. "We can build something from the wreckage, just enough to keep us alive until morning." As they worked, something watched them. In the trees above, glowing yellow eyes blinked. They didn't move, just watched and waited. Later, as they sat beside a weak fire, Ethan looked at Lyra. "You were on that transport ship for military reasons?" he asked. Lyra didn't answer at first. She stared into the flames. "I was going home," she said quietly. "After the war." Ethan nodded slowly. "Same here. I fix ships. That's all I do." Silence. The fire crackled. Suddenly they heard something move in the jungle. Leaves rustled. Twigs snapped. Lyra stood up quickly, her blade in hand. Ethan grabbed a metal pipe. The shadows moved, but nothing came out. Lyra's voice was calm, but serious. "We are not alone," Ethan whispered. "Let's not wait to meet the neighbors." That night, sleep came in short moments. Strange sounds filled the air. The planet was alive, and not in a friendly way. As the fire slowly died, both of them stayed close, backs against each other, watching, waiting. surviving. For now. But deep, inside, they both knew something terrible was coming, something from the dark, and they were not ready. The forest that watches. The morning light on this strange planet was not golden, it was green. A soft, misty glow came through the thick leaves. As Ethan opened his eyes, for a moment he forgot where he was. Then the pain in his shoulder reminded him. The crash, the jungle, the fire, and the alien girl. Lyra was already awake. She stood a few feet away, silent and still, staring into the forest. "Sleep well?" Ethan asked, stretching slowly. "I do not sleep when I am being hunted," Lyra replied without looking back. Ethan sighed. "You think we're being hunted?" Lyra pointed toward the ground. "Tracks. Something circled our shelter during the night. Large, 2 legs. It did not attack. It watched." Ethan knelt beside the footprints. The shape wasn't human. Long toes. Deep impressions. He followed the tracks with his eyes until they vanished into the trees. He suddenly felt cold. They packed quickly. Ethan grabbed his tools and survival gear. Lyra held her broken blade like it was still whole. As they entered the jungle, the trees seemed to move closer. Branches bent without wind, vines curled like snakes ready to strike. And all the while, Ethan felt it, that feeling of being watched. The trees here weren't just tall, they were enormous, thicker than houses. Some had strange symbols carved deep into their bark, glowing softly like old warnings. "What do those mean?" Ethan asked, pointing. Lyra stopped walking. Her face looked serious. "I've seen these before," she said. "In war zones. They mean, do not enter." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Great, and yet, here we are." Lyra didn't laugh. As they moved deeper, strange sounds followed them. A low hum filled the air, like the planet was singing to itself. Insects glowed under leaves. Bluebirds with too many wings flew silently overhead. Then everything went quiet. No wind, no birds. Even the insects stopped humming. Lyra froze. "Something's wrong," she whispered. Suddenly, from behind a tree, a strange creature stepped into view. It was tall, thin, and its skin looked like tree bark. Its eyes were white and had no pupils. It didn't blink. It didn't breathe. It just stood there. Ethan took a step back. Friend of yours?" Lyra shook her head. "That's not alive." The creature tilted its head. Then it opened its mouth. Wide. Too wide. But instead of a scream, it made a sharp clicking sound. Once, twice, then it vanished, gone. Just like that, they both stood frozen. "What was that?" Ethan asked slowly. Lyra looked around quickly. "A watcher. I've heard stories of planets where the forest itself sends watchers. Made of wood. Made of memory." "That's terrifying," Ethan said. Lyra nodded. "It means we are not welcome here." They walked in silence for a long time. Every now and then, Ethan looked over his shoulder. The jungle seemed to shift behind them, like it was closing in, covering their tracks. At last, they found a cliffside and a narrow path leading to a cave. The view was wide. They could see the jungle stretch all the way to the horizon. Strange mountains floated in the distance like islands in the sky. "We'll rest here," Lyra said. "High ground is safer." They sat near the cave, drinking water and breathing hard. "You know," Ethan said, wiping sweat from his face, "I joined the space engineers because I thought it would be quiet work. Just fix stuff, keep ships running, but no. I end up running from forest ghosts with a half-angry alien girl." Lyra looked at him. "I was not angry." "You sure?" Ethan smirked. "You looked pretty angry." Lyra's lips curled up, slightly. Maybe a smile. Maybe not. Night came again. The red sun dipped low behind the trees. Long shadows crawled across the land. They lit another fire near the cave entrance. Then they heard it again. Click, 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 not loud, but near. Ethan turned to look. 3 figures now, wooden faces, hollow eyes. No movement, except their heads tilting in perfect unison. "Why aren't they attacking?" Ethan whispered. Lyra stared. "Because they're not here to kill." Ethan gave her a confused look. "Then, what do they want?" Lyra's voice was cold. "They are here to judge." A heavy silence fell between them. The watchers stood like statues, watching, listening. Then, one by one, they stepped back into the forest and disappeared again. Ethan looked at the place where they had stood. The grass was dead, burned. "We need to leave this planet," he said. Lyra looked up at the stars. "Then we better find a signal tower fast. The forest had watched them today. Tomorrow it might do worse." Trapped together, forced to trust. The sun never stayed long on this strange world. By mid-morning, the sky was already darkening with heavy green clouds. Thunder rolled across the horizon, even though there was no rain. Ethan and Lyra moved quickly, following a narrow trail that led down the rocky hill behind the cave. "I saw something metallic this way," Ethan said, holding a small scanner. "Could be an old structure, maybe alien tech." Lyra walked behind him, silent as always. She didn't trust scanners. She trusted instincts, and her instincts were screaming. "Stop," she said suddenly. Ethan paused. "What is it?" Lyra stepped past him, crouching low. Her sharp eyes caught something strange, half covered by vines. A hole in the ground, wide, circular, not natural. Before Ethan could react, the ground under his feet cracked, then gave way. He fell. The fall was fast, but not deadly. He hit the ground hard and rolled over, coughing. A cloud of dust rose around him. He was inside a long tunnel, dimly lit by glowing moss on the walls. "Ethan!" Lyra's voice echoed from above. "I'm okay," he shouted, sitting up and rubbing his back. "Just probably bruised something important." He looked around. The walls were smooth, man-made. No, alien-made. Strange writing glowed faintly on the metal surface. Suddenly he heard a sound. Click, click, clack. Footsteps, not Lyra's. Before he could move, something large lunged from the shadows. It wasn't one of the wooden watchers. It was a creature made of black, oily skin, 4 legs, no eyes, sharp teeth and a long tongue that flicked the air like it could smell fear. Ethan backed away, but the thing hissed and pounced. Then, wham! A blast of energy slammed into the creature, sending it flying into the wall. Smoke rose. Lyra dropped down, through the hole above, landing beside Ethan. She was holding a small alien pistol, a weapon hidden in her armor. "Next time," she said, "watch where you walk." Ethan looked at the sizzling corpse of the creature. Noted. They moved deeper into the tunnel together, this time side by side. The path led to a wide underground chamber, filled with old machines and flashing lights. Most were broken. Some still blinked, long forgotten. Ethan walked over to one of the consoles. He pressed a few buttons. A faded hologram appeared, showing the layout of the planet. "This place was a research station," he said. "Long ago. They were testing something." Lyra pointed at the center of the hologram. "That's a tower," she said. "A signal beacon. If we reach it, we might call for help." Ethan smiled. "Looks like we finally caught a break." Then, the ground shook. Without warning, the floor under their feet dropped again, this time sliding open like a trap. Both of them fell into a deeper chamber. Metal walls slammed shut above them. The room lit up with red warning lights. They were trapped. Ethan groaned and stood up. "Okay, now this is getting annoying." Lyra paced the walls. "No doors, no ladder, no exit." Ethan checked his tools. "I can maybe reroute power and get the system to open a hatch." He opened a panel and got to work. Sparks flew. The system was ancient. "Talk to me," Ethan said, trying to stay calm. "Tell me something about you." Lyra looked at him. "Why?" Because I work better when I'm not terrified. She sat down slowly. I was trained to fight since I was 5. My father was a general. My mother was killed by a human strike force when I was a child. Ethan froze for a second. Then he quietly said, I didn't fight in your war. I fix engines. Lyra nodded. I know. Still, it's hard to forget. They sat in silence. The lights flickered. I lost people too, Ethan said softly. War is ugly for both sides. Lyra looked at him for a long time. Her expression softened. Just a little, then she stood up. Let's get out of here. Ethan worked fast now. With her watching, with the tension broken slightly, his hands moved quicker. Finally, click. The wall shifted. A side panel opened with a hiss, revealing a small crawl tunnel. After you, Ethan said with a tired grin. Lyra gave him a look. Try not to fall this time. They crawled through the tight space and finally came out into fresh air, just outside the edge of the jungle. The sky was dark again, but the signal tower from the hologram was visible in the far distance, a needle-like structure glowing faintly in the stormy horizon. But so was something else. A shadow moved near the tree line. Watching again, Lyra turned to Ethan. They know we're heading for the tower. Ethan nodded. Then we better beat them to it. They didn't trust each other before, but now they didn't have a choice. They had to survive. Together, the poison and the cure. The path to the tower was not straight. It cut through thick swamps, strange floating rocks, and fields that hummed with energy. The land itself seemed to change as they walked. The trees had red leaves now. The sky had turned yellow, and something was always following. Lyra walked ahead, eyes sharp, blade ready. Ethan followed with the scanner in hand, sweat dripping down, his face. This planet hates us, he muttered. Lyra didn't laugh. She rarely did. Suddenly she stopped. A buzzing sound filled the air, high-pitched, angry. From the trees above, a swarm of bright green insects poured down, each one the size of a fist with long stingers and glowing eyes. Move! Lyra shouted, pulling Ethan behind a rock. But one of the insects was too fast. It bit her on the neck. Lyra gasped and dropped to one knee. Her skin darkened around the bite. Black veins started spreading across her shoulder. Ethan knelt beside her. Lyra, talk to me. She tried to stand, but her legs gave out. Her breathing grew loud and uneven. The sting. It's poison, she whispered. My blood is burning. Ethan's mind raced. He looked around, then remembered. He had seen those insects near a certain plant earlier, a plant with thick blue leaves. He jumped up and ran, back through the forest, past sharp rocks and sinking ground. Ethan searched. He found the plant. Blue leaves with a silver stem. The scanner beeped. Antidote compounds. Maybe, he read aloud. He didn't wait. He ripped the plant out of the ground and ran back. When he reached Lyra, she was barely moving. Her eyes were closed. Her body twitched. No, 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 stay. With me, Ethan shouted. He crushed the leaves and mixed them with water from his canister. Then carefully he poured the liquid over the bite and some into her mouth. For a moment, nothing. Then she coughed. Her body jerked. Her eyes opened wide. She gasped, sucking in air like someone drowning. Ethan sat back, breathing heavily. You're okay. You're okay. Lyra stared at him for a long moment, then whispered, You saved me. Ethan smiled weakly. Yeah. I'm just a stubborn engineer. They rested in silence. The poison faded slowly. The black veins shrank. Her skin returned to its pale blue color. That night they found a small cave to sleep in. Ethan made a small fire. Lyra sat beside him, quiet, thoughtful. You could have left me, she said suddenly. Ethan looked at her. Yeah, but I didn't. Why? He poked the fire with a stick. Because you're not just some alien to me anymore. Lyra turned her head, watching the flames. Then very softly, she said, "On my planet, saving someone from a death sting means you owe them your life." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "You owe me your life now?" Lyra didn't smile, but her voice was calm. "Yes." The next morning they moved again. The tower was closer now. Its shape could be seen above the jungle. But the air had changed. Everything was quiet. Too quiet. No birds, no insects, not even wind. As they walked, they saw bones, old, dry skeletons of creatures they didn't recognize. Then a circle of stones. Each stone had symbols carved into them. Alien symbols, glowing softly. Warning signs. Lyra touched one. Her hand trembled. "This place is cursed," she whispered. Ethan looked around. "We have to go through it. We're almost there." Suddenly, a low growl echoed through the air. Then a second one, and a third. From the shadows stepped 3 creatures, like the one from the underground tunnels. Black skin, no eyes, sharp teeth. Lyra pulled out her blade. Ethan grabbed a burning stick from the fire. They stood back to back. "We don't run this time," Ethan said. Lyra nodded. "No, we fight." The battle was fast and violent. Lyra moved like lightning, slicing through the first creature's neck. Ethan swung his burning stick, setting another beast's arm on fire. One of them tackled Ethan, pinning him down. Its jaws opened wide, then a blur of silver. Lyra's blade stabbed through its head. She helped him up. He looked at her, out of breath. "That's twice you've saved my life now." Lyra replied, "Then we are even." They shared a look, and for the first time, no anger, no fear, just understanding. They left the cursed circle, bloodied but alive. The tower stood in the distance, tall and glowing. They didn't speak much as they walked. They didn't need to. They were no longer strangers. They were survivors. Together. Echoes of a lost civilization. The tower was near now. But between it and them stood a forgotten ruin. Stone walls covered in moss. Archways half buried in the jungle. Time had swallowed this place, but something inside still lived. Ethan stopped, at the edge of the ruins. "Was this on your map?" Lyra shook her head. "This is older than any map." Strange carvings lined the stone, symbols neither of them could read. The air here was colder, quieter. Even the wind held its breath. "We move carefully," Lyra whispered. Ethan nodded. "For once I agree." Inside the ruins, light came from glowing crystals in the walls. The halls were long, filled with shadows, and echoes of the past. They passed broken statues. Some were of beings that looked almost human. Others had wings, horns, or strange faces with no eyes. "What is this place?" Ethan muttered. Lyra brushed dust from a symbol. "I think this was a place of learning, or maybe a sanctuary." Ethan looked around. Well, whoever lived here didn't make it. Then a sound, a soft voice, mechanical, ancient. "Welcome, outsiders." Ethan spun around. "What the? Who said that?" From the shadows, a figure stepped forward. Not human, not flesh. A machine. Its body was thin, made of metal and bone. Its eyes glowed gold. "I am Archive 6, it said. "Caretaker of the last vault." Lyra raised her blade. "We don't want to fight." "There is no fight here," the machine said. "Only memory." The machine led them through a great stone door. Inside was a chamber full of glowing devices, slowly running on backup power. Holograms flickered in the air, showing stars, ships, and ancient cities. "This world," the machine said, "was once home to the Nitheron, builders of peace and knowledge." Ethan stared in awe. "I've never heard of them." "You wouldn't," the machine replied. "They chose to vanish after the Great Silence. But before they left warnings." Lyra stepped forward. "Warnings of what?" The machine turned. "Of the Watchers, the forest, the things that walk without life. They are not from this galaxy. They feed on fear and memory. Ethan shivered. We've seen them. They've been watching us. The machine's lights flickered. Then the cycle begins again. Suddenly alarms blared. The ruins trembled. The machine turned sharply. You have been followed. Outside trees snapped. Heavy footsteps shook the ground. A new kind of creature stepped through the jungle, a twisted mix of flesh and machine. Eyes burned red. Metal spikes covered its body. Lyra cursed. A war beast. That's not from this planet. Ethan pulled her back. We need a way out. Tawarawi. Machine pointed to a glowing panel. Use the vault's bridge. It will take you to the tower, but it can only be activated once. What about you? Ethan asked. The machine gave a slow nod. I am only a memory. You must survive. The chamber doors exploded inward. The war beast roared. Lyra threw a blade, hitting the creature's eye. Ethan slammed the panel. A deep rumble followed. A glowing floor lit up. A bridge, forming across the ruins toward the direction of the tower. Run! Lyra shouted. They sprinted across the light bridge as the war beast charged after them. The bridge shook. Pieces broke off. Ethan jumped to avoid a falling section. Lyra grabbed his hand, pulled him up. Behind them, the beast leapt. Then the bridge collapsed under its weight. It fell, crashing into the ruins below with a final roar. Silence returned. At the end of the bridge, they reached a new ridge. From here, the tower stood tall and clear, made of white metal and glowing panels. It reached into the sky like a finger touching the stars. They both stared. Ethan dropped to his knees, breathless. We're close. We're actually close. Lyra sat beside him. That creature, it wasn't random. I know, Ethan said. Someone doesn't want us to reach that tower. She looked at him. But we will. They looked back one last time at the ruins, now quiet, smoke rising from the broken stones. The past had spoken, and now the future waited at the tower. Together, they stood and walked on. The enemy above. The tower looked peaceful from a distance, but peace is a lie. On a planet that wants you dead, Ethan and Lyra reached the base of the ancient structure just before nightfall. The tower rose hundreds of feet into the air, made of smooth white metal untouched by time or weather. It shimmered softly in the fading light, like it had been waiting for them. This is it, Ethan said, looking up. Signal beacons. Inside. We can call for help. Lyra stayed quiet. Her sharp eyes scanned the sky. Something's wrong, she said. Ethan frowned. What now? Lyra pointed up, above the tower, barely visible in the darkening sky. A ship hovered. Not a rescue ship, a warship. The ship was silent and black, shaped like a blade. Red lights blinked slowly underneath. It didn't move, didn't fire. It just waited. Ethan's stomach turned. You think it followed our signal? Lyra nodded. No doubt. That's not one of mine. That's from the Cinder Dominion. They hunt survivors, loot ancient tech, and leave nothing behind. They're pirates? Ethan asked. Worse, she whispered. They take what they want and burn the rest. They entered the tower quietly. Inside it was glowing and warm, clean, like it had never been abandoned. Lights blinked on as they walked. The floors hummed gently beneath their feet. Feels like someone's still running the place, Ethan said. Maybe something is, Lyra replied. They reached the central chamber. A tall crystal tower pulsed in the center of the room. Around it were glowing panels and strange alien screens. A single pedestal sat at the front with a hand-shaped symbol glowing softly. Ethan stepped forward. This must be it. One touch and it'll send out a signal. Lyra grabbed his arm. Wait. She pointed to the corners of the room. Tiny devices blinked red. Surveillance bugs. They're watching us, she said. Suddenly, a voice echoed from above. Well done, little survivors. Ethan and Lyra looked up. A hologram flickered into the air. It showed a Cinder captain, tall with dark gray skin and 4 glowing eyes. He wore a coat of stitched flesh and armor made from bones. "You activated the beacon for us. We thank you," he said, smiling coldly. Ethan stepped forward. "If you came for us, here we are." The Cinder laughed. "You? No, human. We came for the technology, the tower, the vault, everything. You're just noise." Lyra clenched her fists. "You'll have to fight for it." "Oh, we will," the captain said. "Drones are already landing. Enjoy your last minutes." The hologram vanished. Red lights flashed. Alarms screamed. From the ceiling, metal doors slid open. Black drones dropped in, hovering death machines with spinning blades and glowing weapons. Ethan grabbed a nearby metal rod. Time to earn that free ride home. Lyra was faster. She spun, sliced one drone in half with her blade, then used the smoking pieces as cover. Ethan smashed another with the rod, sparks flying, but more kept coming. They were cornered. Ethan saw a side panel near the crystal tower. "A power port. If I overload the tower, it might blast an EMP pulse," he shouted. Lyra nodded. "Do it." Ethan connected his tools. Sparks flew. Lyra covered him, slicing and dodging, her moves like poetry and rage combined. One drone fired. Shot hit her shoulder. She dropped to one knee. "Lyra!" Ethan shouted, but she stood again, eyes burning. "Finish it." He slammed the final wire into place. The crystal tower pulsed, then exploded with blinding light. A wave of blue energy blasted out in all directions. The drones dropped. Dead. Silence. Smoke filled the air. Lights flickered. Ethan rushed to Lyra. She was breathing hard, blood on her arm. "You okay?" he asked. "I will live," she whispered. Ethan helped her to her feet. "Let's get out of here." They moved up the tower's inner lift. Manual only now, 1 floor at a time. At the top, they reached the signal console. It was still glowing, still working. Ethan pressed a series of commands. "Broadcasting distress beacon," a calm voice said. "All channels." They had done it. Outside in the sky, the Sindar ship began to move. It fired a warning blast. Just above the tower, dust and stone rained down. "They're not going to let us go," Ethan said. "No," Lyra replied, "but maybe someone else will hear us first." They looked at the stars, waiting for the answer. Together, we survived. The distress signal was out, but so was their luck. The Sindar warship above the tower slowly began to descend. Its engines burned red hot. Its shadow swallowed the tower and the ground below. Lyra stood on the edge of the upper platform, breathing slowly, one hand on her wounded shoulder. "We bought ourselves time," Ethan said, checking the fading signal console, but not much. The console screen flickered. Broadcast confirmed. Response. Awaiting. Location. Compromised. Lyra leaned against the wall beside him, her pale blue face tight with pain. "They will land soon," she whispered. "They'll take the tower, erase the ruins, and leave us as ash." Ethan swallowed hard. "Then we fight. We don't have another option." 30 minutes later, they had prepared everything they could. The tower had internal defense systems. Old, mostly. Broken. But Ethan managed to bring 2 turrets online. He set up power traps near the main stairs. Lyra laid a line of explosives she salvaged from the vault ruins. "This won't stop them," Ethan said, "but it might slow them down." Lyra looked at him. "You always say that." He smiled. "Because it's always true." They shared a quiet moment, the kind that only comes before war. Then the tower shook. The Sindar had landed. The battle begins. Dozens of black-armored troops swarmed the base of the tower. Sharp weapons, heavy boots, drones flying above like vultures waiting for a kill. Inside, the traps worked. One by one, Sindar soldiers triggered Ethan's charges. Explosions filled the halls. Fire and smoke painted the white walls in orange and red. Lyra moved like a shadow, fast, fierce, unstoppable. Her blade cut through Cinder armor like it was paper. But she was bleeding. Ethan fought beside her, using makeshift weapons and clever tools. His engineer's mind turned trash into traps, circuits into weapons. He was no soldier, but he was smart. Still, the enemy kept coming. They reached the final stairwell. The two stood, breathing hard, blood on their clothes, backs to the signal room door. "This is it," Ethan said. "They'll break through any second." Lyra looked at him with tired eyes. "I should have hated you," she whispered. Ethan blinked. "What?" "You're human. I was trained to hate your kind, but you saved me. Again and again, even when I wanted you to leave me behind." Ethan stepped closer. "You're not just an alien to me. You're Lyra." For a second, the war disappeared. The tower didn't matter. The soldiers didn't matter. Only them. Then the door exploded. The Cinder captain enters smoke, filled the chamber. The enemy captain, the one from the hologram, stepped inside, his cloak burned, eyes glowing. With cold hatred, he looked at Ethan and Lyra. "I should thank you," he said calmly. "You led us here, saved us the trouble of searching." Ethan stepped forward, raising a broken pipe. "You're not taking this tower." The captain laughed. "You think this ancient junk is worth dying for?" "No," Lyra said behind Ethan. "But he is." She threw her last explosive at the captain's feet and tackled Ethan to the floor. Boom. The chamber shook. When the smoke cleared, the captain was on his knees, injured but alive. He raised his weapon. Then, a new sound. Engines. Loud. Powerful. Human-made. Outside the tower, a new ship dropped from the clouds. A human warship. The beacon had been answered. Reinforcements arrive. The Sindar soldiers turned toward the sound too late. Human soldiers in exosuits descended from the sky, firing powerful weapons. The Sindar were outgunned, outnumbered now. Within minutes, they retreated toward their warship, but it was already under attack. Explosions lit up the sky. Ethan and Lyra watched from the tower platform, arms around each other, as the Sindar were driven off. For the first time in days, they were safe. Aftermath. The human ship landed near the tower. Medics rushed to help. Engineers surrounded the ruins, scanning the old technology. A captain stepped forward and saluted Ethan. "You're Ethan Voss, right? Your signal saved more than just yourself. This planet has tech we've never seen. And her." He looked at Lyra. "Is she with you?" Ethan nodded. "She's the reason I survived." The captain raised an eyebrow. "Then she's coming, too." 2 weeks later, they were no longer stranded. Ethan sat in a clean medical bay aboard the human cruiser Valor's Edge. Lyra sat beside him, now dressed in new clothes, her wound almost healed. They had been offered medals, safety, even jobs, but both had asked for one thing first: time together. Outside the window, stars stretched forever. A quiet, peaceful sky. No watchers, no enemies, just freedom. Lyra turned to Ethan. "You never gave up, not on me, not on hope." Ethan smiled. "You didn't either." She hesitated, then placed her hand over his. "No more alone," she whispered. "Never again," Ethan replied. Final log entry, Ethan Voss. "We landed as strangers. She didn't trust me. I didn't understand her. But through danger, pain, and fire, we became something stronger. Survivors, friends, maybe more. The galaxy is big, but we'll face it together. The end."